Hello guys, welcome back to LaDenser Crochet's. If you're new here, my name is Liz, and in this tutorial we're going to be making this top. It's a V-shaped crop top, which is a full coverage top, like it's not bareback, and so both the front and the back parts are fully covered with these straps. This version that I made is way too cropped, and I want to make another one which is a bit longer than this. I'll be using a medium weight yarn in color light peach. Then I'm going to use a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook, 4.5. Then you'll need a pair of scissors, a darning needle, some stitch markers, and a measuring tape. So take your bust measurements and divide it by 2. We're going to start with the back part, and then once we're done with the back part, we'll proceed to the front part of the top. For this top, I started with a chain of 35, which represents this length from the waist to the armpits. And I want to make it a bit longer, so I'm going to start with a chain of 43. You can start with 43, 45, 35, whichever length you want. Make sure that the chain that you make is an odd number. I'm working a bust of size 36, so when I divide 36 by 2, I get 18. If you're working a bust of 20 or 40, you'll divide it by 2 to get 20. If you're working a bust of 28, you're going to divide it by 2 and get 14. Get your hook and your yarn, and then start with a slip knot. If you want your top short like the white one, you'll do a chain of 35. If you want yours longer like mine, do a chain of 43. So I'm going to begin with a chain of 43. After the 43 chains, you're going to hold the 43rd and chain one more. Then we're going to work a slip stitch into that chain that you're holding, the 43rd. So go into that stitch, pull a loop, and pull through all the loops. For the first slip stitch, go into the second stitch, pull a loop, and pull through all. That's the second slip stitch. Into the next one, put your hook through, pull a loop, and then pull through all. Do that to the next chain. And we're going to repeat this until you have a total of 10 slip stitches. So at this point I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then I'm going to do the 8th one. 8, 9, and 10. Now once you have your 10 slip stitches, the next stitch is going to get a single crochet. For a single crochet, you go into that loop, into that chain, pull a loop, then yarn over, pull through the 2 loops on the hook. At this point, get your stitch marker and mark that single crochet, that first single crochet that you've done. Mark it with a stitch marker. Then we're going to chain 1 and skip the next chain, then work a single crochet into the next chain. Chain 1, skip the next, into the other one, single crochet, chain 1, skip, single crochet into the next, chain 1, skip, then single crochet. And we're going to chain 1 and work a single crochet after skipping until we get to the end of the chain. At the end of the chain, the last stitch should be a single crochet. Make sure that your starting chain is an odd number so that you can end with a single crochet. At this point, I have 2 chains remaining, so I'll chain 1 and then go into the last chain with a single crochet. We are done with row 1. We begin row 2 by chaining 1 and turning. Then wherever we had in that stitch where we had the last single crochet, you're going to place a single crochet. Chain 1, skip the chain, go into the single crochet with a single crochet, chain, skip the chain, go into the single crochet with a single crochet, chain. So we're just chaining and working over the previous single crochets. Wherever there was a chain, you're going to have a chain. Wherever there was a single crochet, you're going to have a single crochet. until you get to the stitch marker. At the stitch marker, you're going to pull it out. Then I've already chained one, so in that single crochet I'll place my last single crochet. You're going to need to continue marking. If you cannot remember this point, continue marking. For me, I don't really need the stitch marker. I can tell where the single crochets begin, so I'll just put it aside. But if you have a problem knowing where you start your single crochets, continue marking that point. Now at this point, we move back to slip stitches, and for the slip stitches we're going to be working the back loops, and instead of working into this stitch, we're going to go into the back loop, this one right here. So ensure that you're working the back loops in the slip stitches, and make sure that the tension of your stitches is not too tight, because if it's too tight, then you'll not be able to work the next slip stitches. So just do the first into the back loop of the next, you do a slip stitch into the next back loop, and we're going to have a total of 10 slip stitches. So ensure you're working in the back loop all the way to the end of row 2. Be very careful not to miss the last one, which is right here. So at that last stitch, pull a loop and pull through, and we're done with row 2. So we chain 1 and turn to begin row 3. We begin row 3 with 10 slip stitches in the next 10 stitches. So we begin with the first one in the back loop right there, pull a loop and pull through. The next one, do the same. That is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 slip stitches. After you're done with the 10, you're going to begin with a single crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, and then work a single crochet on top of the previous single crochet. Chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into the next, chain, single crochet, and repeat to the end. So you're basically placing a single crochet where there was a single crochet and chaining where there was a chain. So this right here is where you place your last single crochet in this last single crochet that you had. So place a single crochet right there. We are done with row 3, chain 1, turn to begin row 4. We begin row 4 with a single crochet in the first single crochet, chain 1, skip, single crochet into the next, chain 1, skip, single crochet, chain, skip, single crochet. And we're going to be repeating row 2 and 3 till we get half of the bust. In my case, like I mentioned, I want to get a bust of 18 inches. That is, half of my bust is 18 when stretched. So you want to work your work and measure while stretching. The number of rows that you make sure that it's a multiple of 4. Make sure your total number of rows is a multiple of 4. That is, it could be 40 rows, it could be 44, it could be 48, 52, 56, 60, and so on. So now at this point, I'll work slip stitches to the end of row 4 and then continue repeating. I went on to make a total of 52 rows. Remember, the number of rows should be a number that is divisible by 4. And 52 is what is enough for my size. If I measure this without stretching, it goes up to around 14 inches. If I give it a stretch, it's going to go up to 18, which is half of my bust right there. And so we are done with the back part. We need to begin the front part. And to work the front part, you're going to take the number of rows that you've worked in the back part and divide it by 4. Then we're going to start working, moving upwards to create this landing part that moves upwards. So when you divide it by 4, we're going to have the first, the second, the third, and the fourth. So 52 by 4 is 13. So I'm going to work 13 rows going up, 13 rows coming down, going up, and then coming down again, and I'll be done at this end. So we begin with the first stitch. I've already chained 1, and we're going to begin at this point where I start with a slip stitch into the first stitch, and then work 10 slip stitches. Then next we work the single crochet, chain 1, single crochet on top of the previous single crochet. Repeat this to the end. Whatever we've been doing, just a single crochet and a chain in between. So I've worked till I've gotten to the last stitch, and at this point, this is where we're going to increase. So chain 1, go into that same stitch with a single crochet, and you're going to need a stitch marker at this point to mark where you ended your the chains, the rows where you ended the rows for the back panel, so that you're able to count 13 rows from this point. So this is my first row. I'll chain 1 and turn. Now, because we've increased in that row, the next row will have no increase at all. So we're just going to start with a single crochet in the first stitch, chain 1, single crochet into the next single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet all the way down till you get to where the slip stitches are. When you get there, you'll change to slip stitches and work 10 of them to the end of row 2 in this part of increase. So when you get to the end of the single crochets, you change to slip stitches and work 10 of them. Chain 1 and turn. We begin again with the slip stitches, 10 of them. After the 10 slip stitches, change to single crochets, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet all the way to the end. Now the third row of this part will have an increase. So we are increasing in the first, the third, the fifth, until we get to the 13th. If yours are 14, you're going to increase until you get to the 13th still. If they are 15, you'll increase until you get to the 15th. So let me show you one more time how to increase. So once you get to the end, you're going to place the single crochet where it's supposed to be. Then you're going to chain one and go into that same single crochet with another single crochet. Chain one and turn. This is row 4 of this part that has an increase. And because we've increased in row 3, we do not increase in row 4. We just begin with a single crochet, chain one, single crochet into the next single crochet. So we are alternating the increase part. When you increase in one row, the next one should have no increase, and so on till you get the number that you obtained when you divided your back panel rows by 4. In my case, I'll keep doing this until I have a total of 13 rows. I'm done with my 13 rows of increase, and now I'm going to do 13 rows of decrease. To do that, I've already chained one, so I'm going to turn, and I'm not going to begin with the first single crochet that we have here. I'll skip that, the single crochet, then I'll skip the chain, go into the second single crochet, and right there place a single crochet. Then I'll get the stitch marker and place it onto the last row that we did, so that I'll know when I'm done with my 13 rows of decrease. So now after reducing at that point, you're going to chain one, then start working normally. Where there was a single crochet, place a single crochet. Where there was a chain, do a chain, and repeat to the end. I'm going to work this row all the way to the end. Then at the end, I'll do the slip stitches, begin the next row with slip stitches, and work till I have 2 single crochets remaining, and then I'll meet you back here to show you how to reduce when you're coming to the end of the next row. So this is the first row of decrease. I'll meet you at the end of the second row of decrease. So just like with the increases, when we decrease in one row, the next one will have no decrease. So I have 1 single crochet remaining here, so chain one and do a single crochet into that last one, chain one and turn. So we've not decreased in that second row. Into the third, we're going to decrease. So instead of working a single crochet here, we're going to skip this, skip the chain and go into the next single crochet and work your single crochet there, chain one, continue to the end. So we are decreasing in row 3, no decrease in row 4, decrease in row 5, no decrease in row 6. Keep alternating till you get your 13 rows. Mine are 13. Keep alternating till you get those rows that are equivalent to the number of rows that you got when you divided by 4. I'm done with the 13 rows of reduction, and now it's time to do another 13 rows of increase. So when it's folded into 2, this is what we have. So this is one side of the bust. We're going to do the other part, and we're going to do that by increasing. But then in the first row this time round, we're going to work it without an increase or a decrease. So we're going to work till we get to this last single crochet, and then we'll start increasing into the second. So for this part, I'll increase in the second, the fourth, till I get to the 12th. So let me work this row up to this top, this part right here, and this will be the first row of the next increase. So the same way we've been doing, we begin with the slip stitches, chain one, do 10 slip stitches, then change to single crochet, chain one, single crochet, chain one, single crochet, continue till you get to the top. So this right here is my last single crochet. Place it there. Then we're going to move the stitch marker to the last row that we did, which is right here. I'm already in row 1 of the increase. So now chain 1, turn. We increase in row 2, so we begin with a single crochet, chain 1, go back into the same stitch with a single crochet. That's in first stitch. Then chain 1 and work normally. When we come back with row 3 of the increase part, we're not going to increase at the end. Then at the beginning of row 4, we increase and keep going till you get your 13 rows. Then after you get the 13 rows, you're going to start decreasing. I'll meet you when I start decreasing. I'll meet you once I'm done with the 13 rows. My 13 rows of increase are done, and I'm going to do the final 13 rows of decrease. So I've just worked the 13th and chained 1. Now we begin the next row by skipping the first single crochet, the chain, and work a single crochet into the second single crochet. Then of course we're going to move the stitch marker to the last row, the 13th row that we just did before we began the decrease. If you can keep the count of your rows without marking, then that is still okay. You don't really have to mark. But if you want to ensure that you don't miss any row, mark your rows, the end of each of them. So I just skipped the first single crochet, the first chain, and then went into the second single crochet, and that is our first decrease, chain 1. Going to the second, into the next single crochet with a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into the next, and repeat to the end. This is the first row of decrease. Remember, when we decrease in the first, we don't do anything with the second. Then we decrease in the third, no decrease in the fourth, decrease in the fifth, no decrease in the sixth, and go on till you get the 13 rows. Now remember, mine could be 13, yours could be 15 or 14 or thereabouts. Whatever number of rows you've been working, just continue working that. And I'll meet you at the end. The front part is now done, as you can see. This is the back part, this is the front part, all done. So now what you're going to do is you're going to chain 1 at the end and cut off the yarn, leave a long tail that you're going to use to sew the 2 ends together. So you'll need to join these 2 parts together. So leave a tail that is long enough to join from the bottom to the top. Yours could have ended at the top, so no problem. There's no problem if you end your rows at the top. Now I'm going to get this stitch marker and mark these 2 points at the top, but while at that I'll turn, this is my wrong side, I'll turn my top to the wrong side and then mark that top stitch and this one right here. So now you want to join the 2 ends together using the darning needle. So get the needle, put your yarn through the tail that you've left. And now we're going to join stitch by stitch. 1 stitch on this side with another stitch on the other side. We begin with the first stitch and the first stitch on the other side. Join them together. Move on to the second with the second on the other side. So just join the corresponding stitches. So the third with the third, the 4th stitch with the other 4th stitch on the other side. And we're going to work like this. We're going to join like this till we get to the top where we have the stitch marker. So just keep joining like this till you get to the end. At the end, pull out the stitch marker because you don't need it anymore. Then you're going to join that last stitch. Now, because I have this tail at the beginning, I'm going to tie a knot using it right there at the end. Then I'll just weave in the tail, this tail right here. This is how I go about it. Then I'll also hide this other tail. Then I'll just cut off whatever remains. And now our top is done. We're just going to turn this to the right side. Now what remains is to do the straps on top. So we're going to attach a strap on this tip and a strap on the other tip. So get your yarn. Now we are this tip. So what we do is we move a stitch below the tip, a row below the tip, and attach the yarn at that point. Begin with a slip knot. Then attach the yarn. I can still attach right here, and then on that tip, attach right there, and then make a chain of 35. I have my 35 chains. Turn your top to the other side. Now we have 14 rows right here from the corner at this point to the top. Those are 14 rows, so we're going to count 14 rows from this point. So these are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14. On the 14th row right there, that's where you attach this chain. Make sure that it's not twisted. So at that point, put the hook through and pull a loop to slip stitch. Then we move on to the next row and slip stitch right there, and then turn our work. Do not chain. After that, we're going to get the first chain and place a single crochet into that first chain, or the last chain, the 35th chain. Place a single crochet, chain 1, skip into the next one, single crochet, chain, skip, single crochet, chain, skip. So we're just repeating the pattern that we've been working with. Single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. That is single crochet, chain 1, skip, single crochet, till you get back to where we reattached the yarn. So into the first chain or the last, we do a single crochet, then into this row at the tip, slip stitch, then slip stitch into the next row and turn After turning, do not chain. You're going to go straight into the first single crochet with a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet on top of the other single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, and repeat to the end. Once you get to the last single crochet, you're going to slip stitch onto the next row. So we are done in a slip stitch here. We move on to the next one. Do a slip stitch, chain 1, and cut off the yarn. Cut it off, pull through, and we're going to weave in that end. At that point, our first strap is attached. It's in place. Now we work the next one. Now for the next one, we're not going to attach from the top. We're going to attach from the back part. And just like we did on the other side, we're going to count 14 rows. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 14. So right there, that's where I'm going to reattach the yarn. Begin with a slip knot, of course. After we slip stitch, or after we reattach the yarn at that point, we're going to chain 35. Now you have your 35 chains. Turn your work like this to the front part. Identify the row at the tip and then reattach the yarn on the row just before the tip. Then slip stitch. Then slip stitch on the row at the tip and turn your work. Then when we turn, we begin with the first chain and place a single crochet right there. Chain 1. Skip to the next, single crochet. Chain, skip, single crochet, chain, skip, single crochet. Repeat to the end. When you get to the end, you're going to slip stitch onto the next row and then slip stitch again onto the next, turn and do the last row. When you get back here, you're going to do a slip stitch onto the next row, the row after the tip. And once you get here, you'll be done with that second strap. I'm done with the second strap, and at this point we are done with this top. What's remaining is to just weave in these ends that are remaining, and then you'll be done. So thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the tutorial. If you've enjoyed the tutorial, kindly give it a thumbs up. Please leave a comment, share the tutorial with your friends, with anyone else who you think would love to make this top or to recreate it. When you do recreate, do not forget to tag me on my social media pages. I'm LaDenser Crochets in all the platforms. See you in the next tutorial.